So I watched a movie. Okay, I watched Venom. Let There Be Carnage. All right, I didn't see that movie when it first came out in theaters because it was COVID. I didn't feel like watching just every movie, going to a packed, movie house. Movie house. Do people call cinemas or theaters movie houses anymore? Or am I from the 1910s? Who knows? I didn't go. Okay, I didn't go to see it in theaters. I was like, I don't think it's worth it. And that's partly because of what I just said, but also partly because the first Venom movie, while I had to admit in my review, which you can find on YouTube on the site, while I had to admit that it was an entertaining movie, I also, firmly believed it was not a good film. The first Venom movie was not a good movie. It was, it felt like an early 2000s comic book movie. Okay, it felt like something along the lines of something that would have stood next to, what's a good example? Like the Blade sequels, or Elektra, or Catwoman. It's better than Catwoman though. Or some of those Punisher movies, or Daredevil with Ben Affleck, around that era of movies, right? So I didn't have too much of a problem with that. The problem is that it's 20, well, whenever the first movie came out, 2018 or something. So that's kind of weird that we're getting this kind of this random mid 2000s movie in like 2018 or something. So, and it's not very good. Like, the dialogues were bad. The story was convoluted as hell. Tom Hardy gives a really weird performance, and it was very wacky and ridiculous, and it was not a good movie. Okay, it was kind of all over the place, the first Venom movie, but like I said, it did make me laugh, and it was entertaining. So, but not entertaining enough that I'm like, oh man, this is so good, I can't wait until the second movie. So I finally sat down and watched it. Venom, Let There Be Carnage. The arrival of Carnage, played by Carnage slash Cletus, played by Woody Harrelson. And this movie does pretty much exactly what you'd expect it to do. It is, more expensive. It is bigger, louder, wackier. It does everything that the first movie does, but it turns it up to 11. So that's pretty much what I expected it to do, and it does that. And for some people, that was actually too much. I know some people were just like, look, I'm okay with the wackiness of the first Venom. This is too much, okay? And I know some other people who were like, this was even more awesome. I love it. So I think you're going to fall into, either camp, probably, or, you'll fall into kind of the milder camp, like where I am. This movie, again, was really ridiculous and not very good in many, many respects. The dialogue was horrible, absolutely atrocious. Tom Hardy, once again, so weird as Eddie Brock. Very wacky story and very hammy performances. But you know what? I'm kind of okay with it. I was kind of okay with this movie being as crazy as it was. I'm not a huge Venom slash Carnage fan. There's some people who really, really, love these characters. When the comics were happening, the Venom comics and stuff, and Carnage comics, I was not really into it. I liked Spider-Man comics, but I like the more old-fashioned stuff. So I wasn't really into. I was like, aliens, really? But over time, Venom and Carnage, this kind of alien symbiote idea, has grown on me quite a bit, because after a while I just realized, you know what, like all these like mad scientist dudes with the experiments backfiring, that's kind of boring. There's like all these characters are like mad scientists gone wrong, and it's just like, you know what, it's kind of a breath of fresh air, this Venom Carnage stuff. And I love the kind of Lovecraftian just gory mess of a character. You know what I mean? I kind of, over time, I kind of understood the appeal of these characters and how they would actually pose a pretty big challenge for Spider-Man. I was very kind of uncertain whether I would be interested in solo movies for these characters. But the first Venom movie, like I said, surprised me. It was not very good, but engaging and silly enough to keep my attention. And this movie, like I said, Same kind of deal. Now, the story this time around is very different, and actually, I would say better, because this movie doesn't have to worry too much about getting an alien to Earth and getting an alien to Eddie Brock or something like that. It's very quick now because we already have Venom. Venom's already settled, okay? Very settled. So, the story is much simpler this time around. And I think, actually, I prefer the story in this movie than in the last movie because it's simple. You don't have to, you already have your brain kind of half off for these movies, okay? So the fact that the story is not convoluted and just like out of its mind, I mean, it is, but it's not convoluted and like overly complicated for no reason. That helps. That helps kind of smooth things over a little bit. So I like the story of this movie a lot better than the first movie. And I think, the climax of this movie is much better as well. The climax of the first movie was just a bloated, just CGI diarrhea mess. I didn't like that at all. This movie feels looser. It feels more confident. It feels a lot more self-aware. And the story, basically, I mean, obviously, you know what's going to happen in this movie. You've got Cletus, who is played by Woody Harrelson with a red-haired wig. And he's in prison. He's like this serial killer guy. And he is on death row. And he asks for an interview with Eddie Brock. Eddie Brock gives him an interview, but he kind of like trashes him a little bit. And Cletus is pissed off. So he has a second meeting with Eddie Brock when he's on death row. And this time he gets into an altercation with Venom. He pisses off Venom, who comes out. And a piece of Venom gets into the bloodstream of Cletus. And that's how eventually he develops Carnage, escapes from prison, yada, yada, yada. Part of Cletus's backstory, we're introduced at the beginning to his time in Ravencroft, the basically Arkham Asylum of the Spider-Man world, where he has a girlfriend. He has this girlfriend called Shriek because she's got this kind of like shrieking powers. She can be like, ah! And then it creates sound waves. So he has this girlfriend, and she's also a psycho, but they're separated when they're younger. And she's put in this, like, maximum security kind of box thing. So he never sees her again. So he's on death row. His last wish was basically to send a message to his beloved Shriek. And Eddie Brock kind of betrayed him on that a little bit. So Cletus / Carnage's goal is to go find his beloved girlfriend, okay? Once he becomes Carnage, he's got all the power he needs to do that. But Carnage has different goals. Carnage is technically the son of Venom. So Carnage, agrees to this. But the exchange of that is that Carnage wants to get Venom, So that's just going to lead up to a big battle between both. There's no big surprises in this movie, really. And we're introduced to what Venom is doing, Venom / Eddie Brock. Eddie Brock has learned to live with Venom inside him. They're good pals. Venom is such a weird character. He's like this. Every so often you have to take a step back when you watch these movies and just look at them from afar and just be like, what the hell am I watching? It's like this. It's almost like a Shinigami from Death Note, okay? Kind of deal where you've got this horrible creature with a rictus grin who kind of looks like Spider-Man for whatever reason, who talks like a dude bro at this point. He's picked up on Earth lingo, so he's just like having normal kind of conversations like a human being. And he's arguing with Tom Hardy, who always looks like he's high on God knows what, and always looks like he's in the process of dying. He looks like a junkie the whole time. And he's doing the same voice as Venom, because I'm pretty sure he does both voices, right? So Tom Hardy sometimes just like, stop it. Really weird dynamic there the whole time. It's really chaotic. Like, even the first movie, if you remember the scene in the lobster tank, this is a chaotic movie. And still as chaotic as ever. Venom obviously wants to eat people, right? But Eddie Brock has kind of toned him down to the point where, like, he's allowed him to survive on chickens, live chickens, and chocolate instead of brains, okay? And Venom's not very happy about that. Venom wants to eat brains, wants to eat people. So they have kind of a disconnect there, and it's very hard for Venom to live with this deal that Eddie Brock has set up for him. And so they eventually have a clash, okay? Eddie Brock fights Venom. They have a big disagreement. Venom exits the body of Eddie Brock, and Eddie Brock kind of slowly starts to piece his life back together. Obviously, Michelle Williams plays his girlfriend slash ex-girlfriend, let's be real, who is about to get married to the dude that she's with. I forget the name, Dan or something. The movie tells us that, her boyfriend proposed, she's going to get married, and at the end, she just kind of leaves with him. That's pretty much, there's no big kind of, to the relationship between her and Eddie Brock, there's not a huge resolution, but you kind of get the idea by the end. Spoilers, that Eddie Brock is kind of okay with it, okay with her moving on type of deal. Speaking of performances, okay, Woody Harrelson is every bit as hammy as you'd expect him to be. And as he should. Because why the hell would Woody Harrelson bother giving like this subtle Academy Award winning performance? He knows what movie he's in, and he's enjoying every absurd moment of it. And that's why I love Woody Harrelson, because Woody Harrelson is always very willing to be like, oh, you want me to be a cartoon in this? All right, I'll be I don't care. Bring it. It'll be fun, It's kind of like the same as Willem Dafoe. I love Willem Dafoe because Willem Dafoe is just like, I gotta dress like a goblin. All right, let's do it. It's just like, I love actors like Nicolas Cage, that kind of actor who's just like, let's just go all in on this. And he's very, very entertaining in this movie. Not extremely convincing haircut that he has, but you know what? That's fine. That's fine. He's a cartoon. It works. And Michelle Williams is still, I feel, really miscast in these movies. Like, even in the first movie, there was just something off about her performance. I feel like she's trying to give kind of a... She's less successful at going all ham as, like, Tom Hardy or Woody Harrelson or Naomi Harris. I'll get to her. Yeah, she's having a tougher time, I feel, like, being funny and at the same time, just giving her performances that matches the tone of the movie. I always feel like she's on a different level. As a result, she's actually not very good in these movies. I don't think she's very good in this movie, and she's not very good in the last movie. There's some comic relief. There's a lot of comic relief in this movie, but we'll get to that as well. Continuing with the performances, Naomi Harris is awesome in this movie. And again, same thing as Woody Harrelson. She knows exactly what kind of movie she's in. She's hamming it up big time. But she really blends into this character of Shriek, and I really think she's underrated as a character actress. I want to see Naomi Harris in more stuff. She has this ability to really kind of blend into roles and disappear into roles. Pirates of the Caribbean, you would never think that it's the same person who's in those James Bond movies, This character that she plays is a little bit more like the character she played in Pirates of the Caribbean. She has this very kind of like maniacal way of speaking. But the character is different enough, obviously. But she is really, really good. I really enjoyed her performance in this. It matched the tone of the movie. She was on point. But yeah, obviously, like this, the way the story goes, Eddie Brock and Venom separate ways. At the same time, Carnage gets out of prison. Carnage starts creating carnage. And obviously, because the last person to have betrayed him is Eddie Brock, we know he's coming to Eddie Brock. Meanwhile, there's like this policeman who's trying to get information on all this carnage stuff through Eddie Brock. But Eddie Brock is initially very reluctant to tell him what's going on because obviously he's Venom. But the more we get, into the movie, he starts to be a little bit more, honest and involving the policeman a little bit more, but not too much. And at the end, the policeman, spoilers, everybody, just to let you know, spoilers in case you want to see the movie. The policeman dies kind of at the hands of Shriek, but there's a hint that he's gonna come back as someone. I actually don't know who he's meant to be, that cop, and I don't want to look it up. I want to be surprised when it's announced, so I'm not even gonna look into it. But I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see who he's gonna play. In terms of the Sinister Six, we've got pretty much everybody now, right? We have Scorpion in the wings, just waiting in the wings, This movie has some big action sequences in it. it's mostly just Carnage. Just, there's like a big scene where he's like destroying the whole prison, like, killing every prison guard, getting revenge on Ravencroft when he's breaking out Shriek, and then fighting with the cops. Big kind of explosive action sequences. Most of them are shot in the dark. This movie is in the dark a lot. I would say maybe a little too much. It would have been nice to get one kind of big action scene in the daytime, just so we can see the effects, which are a lot better this time around. There's still a couple of effects that are a little bit weird here and there, a little bit too soft or not very convincing. And I think, honestly, no, the effects overall are much better in this movie than the last movie. Like, that's undeniable. A lot better. So I just would have liked to appreciate them a little bit more if the movie had been a little bit brighter in parts. And once again, the climax of the movie is on a rooftop in the dark with scaffolding everywhere. What is happening with Marvel movies and ending all their movies with on the rooftop with scaffolding? I don't understand. You got Amazing Spider-Man, okay? That was the ending of that. Spider-Man 3. You got this movie, Shang-Chi, although that wasn't at the end. That was kind of at the first kind of third of the movie. There was this big scaffolding. See, scaffolding is big in Marvel these days. I'm not really sure why. I guess because they can drop and fall, but that doesn't so much happen in this new movie. Anyway, so obviously it builds up to the big battle between Carnage and Venom. And there's some people's lives are at stake, namely Venom himself, Michelle Williams and the boyfriend, and there's a priest in there. I'm not even sure what happens to a priest in the end, I forget. And what's his name? The cop as well. There's a priest, by the way, because a big part of this movie is Cletus wants to get married to Shriek for whatever reason. So it all takes place in this cathedral at the end during the wedding. And I kind of like that. Honestly, at first I was like, well, this is really silly that we're worried about a wedding right now. But at the same time, it's Cletus and Shriek are mad as hatters. Okay, so they would do that. They've been planning this for a long time. So it kind of makes sense. And this movie feels like it could be an episode of Batman the Animated Series, okay? Except Batman just happens to be Venom. It just has this kind of tone where it's dark and gloomy, but it's also very kind of goofy and cartoony. I understand why the comic relief is there, the whole thing with chickens. There's the lady and newsagents. I would have cut out the part. Well, there's a whole sequence where Venom is on his own and he's grabbing onto different hosts because Eddie Brock and him had a fight, and he's just walking around a nightclub. There's a whole sequence where Venom goes to a club, and then there's this singer, and he grabs the mic and he starts talking to the audience because the audience thinks he's a guy in a cool costume, and Venom feels validated. It's yeah, I am awesome. And it's just kind of it goes on for way too long. If you want to make this joke, make it fast. Don't do a whole sequence of that, because that would have cut a good 5 minutes of the movie. And I feel that movie could have done with being just a little bit shorter, even though technically not too much happens in this movie. It could have done with being just a tiny bit shorter. We could have done with 5 minutes less in this movie. But overall, it was fun. I didn't expect, I didn't expect this movie to blow me away. I didn't expect this movie to really challenge me, bringing in some big ideas that I'm wow, never thought of that before. I didn't expect this movie to artistically, reinvent the wheel. Like I said, I expected more Venom, more craziness, more kind of tongue-in-cheek, bad jokes, more just kind of gory looking stuff. I don't know. I expected more Venom, and I got more Venom. And some people are going to go for that. Some people are not going to be happy. They liked kind of the more balanced way that the first movie approached it. Fine. I don't know. I think big fans of Venom and Carnage will really dig this movie. I think so. I think those who really love those characters will be into it because you get more of them. There's more fighting, and they're pretty darn different from each other, and it's fun, It's like the Fast and the Furious movies of these Marvel movies. The main thing I can compare these Venom movies to are the Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider movies, You can trash these movies, to till the cows come home, okay? There's plenty to make fun of in the first and second Ghost Rider movies, but at the end of the day, those movies are fun. Those movies are dumb. Those movies are not always very well made, but they're entertaining. I had a good time watching those Ghost Rider movies, even though I had to shut my brain off pretty much completely during most of that. And it's the same thing here. It has a charm to it. And I can't deny that I had fun watching this movie. I wouldn't, if someone asked me, is this a good movie? I will say no. No, it's not a good movie, but you'll probably have fun watching it if you're willing to just turn that dial back, roll the way down to 0. Okay, so if you can shut your brain off, enjoy some really what's a good word for it? It's very campy comic book movie action. I think you'll have a decent time. But yeah, if Venom was already kind of a lot to take in for you, you're probably not gonna go for this at all, because it's more. It's a lot. Okay, so it's a lot more. I like the little build up to No Way Home at the end. That was kind of nice. Very cheesy again. Very cheesy jokes in there. But yeah, I kind of, at least you get the feeling in those movies that the people making it are having a good time making it. You know, you get the feeling that Naomi Harris, that Woody Harrelson, that Tom Hardy, to a lesser extent Michelle Williams, are all having kind of a good time making this movie, and that translates well through the screen as just a good time. You know, again, it's a good Friday night movie. You get some beers, get some friends, and you'll have a fun time. I think you can make fun of it. You can enjoy unironically certain parts of it. Yeah, it's a good Friday night kind of movie, but don't expect to remember it, you know, for the rest of your life. But yeah, it's all right. It's all right for what it is. I would recommend it. You know, like I said, if you thought the first Venom movie was fun, you want to see more Venom stuff, there you go. So thank you for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next review. Take care.